1985. That was the first time I ever ran into somebody who was making $10,000 a month. And to me, $10,000 a month at that time seemed like, it just seemed so insane because I wasn't even making $10,000 a year in 1985. So for somebody to be making $10,000 a month, I'm like, okay, my dad already taught me that if somebody else can do it, you can do it because it can be done. They've already proven it can be done. So I don't have to go prove it can be done. That's exciting, right? You don't have to prove it can be done. $10,000 an hour is something that I know that's possible because I've done it myself more times than I have the ability to count, and considerably more than that. And I've also taught other people who've done it more times than I have the ability to count. And so now I'm going to teach everybody out there in the YouTube sphere, like, how do you make $10,000 in an hour? Because I know that sounds kind of insanical. And for those of you who don't know what insanical is, it's like the offspring of insane and maniacal together, right? So the first thing we have to do is you have to discern the level of value. So you have to discern the level, discern the level of value that you're going to work on. So what does that mean? This is one of the biggest things that keeps people stuck, because we've been lied to our whole life. We've been told that the key to success is working hard, and if you want to be more successful, you have to work harder. I do believe that working hard is a good idea, but I believe it's only a good idea to work hard on things that are smart work also. Like, work hard at smart things. Don't work hard at stupid things. Heard somebody say one time, people who play stupid games win stupid prizes. People who work hard on stupid things get stupid paychecks, right? Let's work hard on stuff that makes sense. Right? And so what do I mean discern the level of value? Value is the thing that people pay for. So in order for me to make $10,000 worth of in an hour, I have to be able to deliver more than $10,000 worth of value in that hour. Well, in order for me to do that, I have to understand first and foremost the 4 levels of value. So these are the 4 levels of value that I discovered in Genesis chapter 1 many, many moons ago. Okay? So the lowest level of value is implementation. And so implementation, on the implementation level, we use our, that's good. I think that's red. We use our muscles. We use our muscles over time. So if you think about muscles, muscles are a physical resource. Time is a limited resource. So what you're doing when you're using your muscles over time is you are taking a physical resource times a limited resource, and then you're attempting to produce an unlimited result. It's not possible. Okay, are y'all tracking? And so what you have to do is you have to say, okay, so why does this not work? The implementation level is the level where people make the least amount of money. If you want to make more money, you have to level up. People say, I'm working hard. Yeah, but you're working hard on the wrong level. Right? It's not like how hard you work on your current level is not the question. The question is, how hard are you willing to work on yourself to get to the next level? Because on the lowest level of value, you're going to make somewhere between minimum wage and maybe $80,000 per year. Minimum wage if you're making tacos at 7-layer burritos at Taco Bell, $80,000 a year. Maybe if you're a mechanic working on a Rolls Royce or a Bentley or Mercedes or whatever. You're a high skilled laborer that works on premium products. So now you're making $80,000 a year, but you're still using your muscles over time. Now, some of us are going to think, well, that's not fair. Okay. Well, you work on making life fair. I'm just going to work within the boundaries that life has already handed us. Okay. And, I just recently had an event at a hotel in Clearwater, Florida. And so when we were at that event, one of the things that I noticed every time I go to a hotel is the hardest working people in the hotel are the housekeeping staff. But they're also the people who make the least amount of money. And we can oh, that's not fair. We need to figure out a way to make that better. And politicians are always going to lie and tell you they're going to solve income inequality, but they can't solve income inequality because income inequality doesn't exist in a vacuum. Income inequality, there are some shenanigans that go on. I'm not saying there are no shenanigans that go on in the upper echelons of society. I'm not saying that, but income inequality is largely a result of value creation inequality. So if you want to make more money, create more value. And by the way, you don't need somebody to fix it for you. In fact, the reason you have the problem is because that's not just something you're supposed to go through, that's something you're supposed to grow through. And if you're willing to grow through the problems that you have, it can turn you into a person who no longer has that problem. Okay, there are no external forces that are stopping you. The forces that are stopping you are all inside you. That's another conversation for a different day. 80,000 a year. So what's the next level? Well, the next level is what I call unification. And on the unification level, we use our management skills to make money. Now, the reason we make more money, and by the way, people who use their management skills make a lot more money than people who do the thing themselves. In fact, these people who manage these people make more money than the people they manage. That's not fair. Okay, don't fix that right now. Fix it later. Right now, let's figure out how we can level up. So on this level, you're going to make using your management skills, and the reason you make so much more money is because here you get paid for your hours. Here you get paid for something called man hours. And the more people you have working for you, the more money you make. You got 100 people under you. What did J. Paul Getty say? J. Paul Getty say, I would rather make 1% of the efforts of 100 people than the 100% of my own efforts. Okay, so start thinking about leverage. When you have management skills, you're actually leveraging the work of other people. Okay, so on this level, management skills, you're going to make somewhere on the low end, you might make $60,000 a year if you are a manager at Taco Bell, and you might make $250,000. You might make $250,000 if you're a manager at a Fortune 100 or Fortune 500 company like Lockheed Martin. You might work at Boeing or somewhere where a middle manager, you're going to make $250,000 a year. But if you make $250,000 a year at your job because of your management skills, the company that you work for, they want you to know they own you. That's not the same as them wanting you to know they own you. They want you to know they own you. Right? And they're going to do everything in their power to show you that they know that they own you. Okay? Well, what we got to do is we have to level up one more time. And when we level up, well, two more times actually. When we get up above this dotted line, this is where the fortunes start to be made. And so, if you're down here using your muscles over time, you have a couple of levels to ascend before you can even start thinking about making $10,000 a month. And you're going to see, this is an hour, not a month. And you're going to see how this makes sense here in a minute. So what happens next is this level doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense, but it is. This is communication. Communication is, and by the way, the resource you use here is called your mouth. Okay? When you, on the communication level, you're going to make on the low end 100 grand a year if you sell cars, or if you sell insurance, or you sell real estate. On the low end, you make 100,000 a year. But on the high end, it could be $100 million a year. What do you mean $100 million a year? Well, if you're a screenwriter and you write scripts for movies, you might make $100 million a year. If you're a songwriter and you write songs, you might make, if you're a Beyonce or if you're a Taylor Swift, you might make $100 million, $200 million, $300 million a year. You're a Jay-Z. You might make hundreds of millions of dollars because you create a message with your mouth that moves the masses. You know how to have conversations that create cash flow. Now maybe you can't sing like Beyonce. Maybe you can't act like Denzel Washington. Maybe you can't direct movies like, I was going to say Martin Scorsese, but I don't even know if Martin Scorsese, I think he's a director. Anyway, Martin Scorsese, right? You may not be able to do any of that stuff, but guess what? Here's an arena you can step into today, using your mouth to make money. It's called sales. I don't like sales. Okay, cool. Most people don't. In fact, I would venture to guess that probably 95% of people don't like to sell. I want you to think about that. Somebody tell me, what is the alternative to selling? Buying or being sold. Okay, so think about that. 95% of the people don't like to sell, which means 95% of the people only like to buy. That makes it really, really good for the 5% of us who love to sell. By the way, come on over, jump on in, the water's fine. By the way, for those of you who don't like sales, I submit to you that perhaps you don't like sales because you had a bad experience with somebody who was, quote, in sales, but was terrible at sales. And here's what I mean when I say they were terrible at sales. They attempted to talk you into buying something you didn't want, didn't need, or couldn't afford, and then proceeded to attempt to pressure you to say yes when your answer was already no. That's not what I mean when I say sales. When I say sales, I mean helping people make a decision they already desire to make for their own reasons, not talking them into making a decision you desire them to make for your reasons. One of the reasons I'm so good at sales is because I'm not trying to get anybody to buy. I just recognize there are a lot of smart people out there in the world who would desire to have the results I can help them get, and they'd be willing to pay me for that. And so therefore, fortunately for me, I figured it out. I don't have to talk people into buying. Why? Because there are enough people out there who are already looking to buy what I'm already looking to sell. That's a game changer. Okay. So communication, you can start out in sales. You could become an author and sell books. I wrote a couple of books. In fact, I'm going to grab them just because I'm talking about it right now. I didn't think about it earlier. Okay. So back in frame. Okay. Yeah. I wrote this book 19 years ago. This book makes me about $110,000 a year. I wrote it 19 years ago. It's called From the Trash Man to the Cash Man. If you buy it on Amazon, you might end up paying $1,100 for it. So I would recommend against that, certainly over $100, because people buy them on my website and then they sell them on Amazon and people buy them. And I know they do because I was speaking at a conference. Y'all know who Alex and Layla Hormozi are, right? So I was speaking at their conference, at their Gym Lords conference one time. And I was telling them, I just found out people are selling my book on Amazon for like $300 and $160 and $60. And Layla says, I know, I just bought your book the other day for $60 off Amazon. I'm like, what? I would have given it to you, right? Anyway, she said, yeah, I bought it for my dad. And so this book, don't buy it on Amazon. If you want to buy it on trashmantocashman.com. Not that I'm trying to get you to buy one. Don't buy one. If you think I'm trying to sell you a book, don't buy one. How about that? This book I wrote 4 years ago. We sell $30,000 to $40,000 a month of this book. These two books together make us $500,000 a year for work I did a long time ago, right? So what are you saying? This is a message that I communicated. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about I took my time, I put this message in a book. You know, you sit there and you type, or you write, and then you have somebody, right? I wrote those, that represents work that I did many moons ago, but I'm still getting paid off of it every single solitary day. Okay, so communication. Well, what's the highest level of value? The highest level of value is imagination. And on this level, you use your mind and you use your money to make money. Now, here's what happens. You want to make $10,000 an hour? Here's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to discern the level of value you're working on, and then you got a decision to make. Am I going to stay on the level I'm on? If you're down here, it's going to be very, very hard for you to make $10,000 an hour using your money, using your muscles over time. So maybe there's a better way. It's going to be very, very hard for you to make $10,000 an hour managing people. So what you have to do is you have to figure out how to create and convey a message that shows other people that you have value, and you have to figure out who those people are. So I'm going to use my mind. I'm going to use my mind to figure out, okay, who are the people that I'm going to serve, right? So I use my imagination. So I gave you all part of the outline. So discern, right? So then I'm going to use my imagination. If I'm going to create wealth, I'm going to discern what level of value I'm on, and then I'm going to use my imagination to contemplate. Not contemplate. Use my imagination, to contemplate who, it doesn't like that T, who I'm going to help, contemplate who I'm going to help and how I'm going to help them. That's where it starts. You want to make $10,000 a month, an hour. You want to make $10,000 an hour? You got to figure out, you got to think about, you got to use your imagination. Okay, who has a problem? Start paying attention to other people's problems. Start paying attention to other people's pains. Start paying attention to what other people complain about. Start paying attention to what makes other people's lives uncomfortable. Start paying attention to people's faces. When they start frowning, okay, what's missing here? What's missing here? What's missing here? What can I create that would make their life better right now? And if you can figure out the answer to that, when you can contemplate who you're going to help and how you're going to help them, and the people you're going to help are people who have a big problem, and they have deep pockets, and it's a big pool of people, it's going to be really hard for you not to get rich. And see, your problem is, the challenge you're having financially right now is more than likely, if I can be so bold, and I don't mean this in a condescending way, so I want to say it with kindness in my voice, it's probably because, if you're struggling financially right now, it's probably because the only person's problem you've ever really focused on attempting to solve is your own. And all of the money that you desire to have and don't have right now, it's in somebody else's pocket, bank account, purse, wallet. And if you solve a problem for them that they know they have, they will happily hand it over. That's all I'm saying. So start thinking about, who am I going to help? How am I going to help them? Who am I going to help? How am I going to help them? I've got a friend who used to be one of my clients. His business does pretty close to $30 million a year now. He teaches attorneys how to do marketing for their law firm. He teaches attorneys how to do marketing for their law firms. Now, guess what he's not? He's not an attorney. He was going to law school. He's like, I don't like this. but he's good at marketing. And so he started teaching attorneys. Why did he teach attorneys? Because they have big problems. What's the big problem? Okay, let me paint the picture for you. They went to school for 4 years and accumulated, let's just call it tens of thousands of dollars worth of debt. It's probably more, but let's call it tens of thousands of dollars worth of debt. Then they went to law school and acquired tens of thousands of dollars more debt. And then they started a law practice and acquired hundreds of thousands of dollars more debt. And now they went to school to learn how to become a lawyer, practice law, and pass the bar exam. Guess what they didn't learn? They didn't learn how to get clients to pay them for solving their legal problems. So the educational legal, the people who educate lawyers created this big hole in the market that lawyers didn't even know they had until after they passed the bar and borrowed money to start a practice. And they hung their shingle and nobody showed up. If you build it, they will come. That's great for movies, but in real life, it really doesn't work that way. And so what happened is you contemplate who you're going to help, how you're going to help them. If you can find people that have a big problem and it's a big pool of people and they have deep pockets, I'm telling you, $10,000 in an hour is not off the table. I'm gonna show you how. I'm like, this is literally going to be a blueprint. Like, this is just the first part. If you're thinking about $10,000 an hour from the, man, right now I'm making $20 an hour. So if I'm going to make $10,000 an hour, I need to make 500 times more dollars per hour. So 500 times more per hour. So 500 times 20. I need to start making $10,000 an hour. Well, if you're selling your time, it's going to be kind of hard for you to get there. Unless, of course, you can charge $10,000 an hour, which most people don't have the ability to do that. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to contemplate the level of value. This is how I'm using the 4 levels of value to make $10,000 an hour. Okay. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to contemplate who now. Then I'm going to Then I'm going to communicate. The second thing I'm going to do is communicate. I'm going to communicate to the who about the how I can help them. I've already contemplated, okay, I know who it is. Now I got to communicate with those people who I've discovered who they are. I've got to create messaging that causes them to say, okay, this person is worth listening to. Because if they don't think you're worth listening to first, they're not ever going to think you're worth paying. Right? You have to say something with your mouth or on print that causes them to say, this person knows my answer. They have my solution. And if you don't do that, like contemplate who, and then communicate with that who, and then, so you use communication, use your imagination to contemplate who and how, you use your communication to communicate who and what, and then you use your unification to manage the people, the process, and the plan for how you're going to solve those people's problems. Because all of the money you desire to have right now and don't have, it's in somebody else's pocket. Are you all tracking? Okay, so that's level 1, level of value. So the next thing, after you discover or discern the level of value, the next thing you have to do is you have to discover your leverage. That's point number 2, you discover your leverage. Discover your leverage. What leverage? Well, that's what you got to decide. There we go. Discover your leverage. Okay, what does that mean, discover my leverage? Well, you have to discover a method of leverage. So what method of leverage are you going to use? So there are different ways to solve problems. I told you about books, right? So I wrote books. Okay, that's one method of solving a problem. You can write the answers down in a book. You could also create some kind of coaching program. You could also hold a master class. There are a bunch of different ways. So you want to discover the method of leverage, and then you leverage the method that can solve the problem for the largest number of people at the same time. It's really interesting. So when I do business coaching, I have some one-on-one clients, very few. Most of my business clients are clients that I coach in a group. And the reason I coach most of my clients in a group is because it's more effective for them and more efficient for me. What do I mean it's more efficient for me? Well, if I'm coaching 100 people for an hour and I'm doing it all one-on-one, I'm using 100 hours of my time to do that coaching. That's not very efficient. What I mean when I say it's effective for them? Well, if I'm coaching one person at a time, person one, I'm going to give them an answer that would benefit person 2, person 5, person 16, person 32, but those people aren't there. So now they missed out on answers they could have, and I'm not going to remember everything I told person 1 by the time I get to person 5 and person 16 and person 32. So now these people missed out on the help I gave this person because I was coaching this person in a vacuum. Does that make sense? And so when I create a coaching solution, most of my coaching solutions are in a group. Why? Because it's more efficient and it's more effective. Okay, so that's the method. So then once I discover the leverage that I must work with, so I'm discerning the level of value that I must work on. I'm discovering the leverage that I must work with. The second leverage is the medium leverage. What do you mean medium? So am I going to use television, radio, magazines, newspapers, the internet, social media? Like, am I going to use search engines? Am I going to use paid ads? Am I going to use organic content? What is the medium that I'm going to use to reach the people, to let them know I've solved their problem and I'm willing to let them buy that solution from me? I've got to leverage the medium. Here's what I mean by leverage the medium. I'm going to step off camera again because I didn't bring all this stuff over here because I didn't think about it until just now. So here's what I mean, leverage the medium. I'm going to ask you all a simple question. I want everybody to answer out loud. It's not a trick question. How many hours are in a day? 24. There you go. Okay, so if you multiply 24 times 365, there are 8,760 hours in a year. How cool is that? 8,700. You're like, I guess it's cool. I could tell by the look on your face that's what you were thinking. So I'm gonna pull up my primary medium, which is YouTube, and I'm gonna pull up my YouTube app. And here's what it tells me: that in the last 28 days, people around the world spent 310,000 hours watching me. So if I take 310,000 and I divide it by 8,760. That turns into 35.4 years people spent watching me in the last 28 days. That's the importance of leveraging the medium. Like, oh, by the way, all I had to pay to do that was to pay with my time to create the video. I paid with my imagination to come up with the concepts, right, that I'm going to talk about, that I talked about them, and I turned on a camera. And then I uploaded to YouTube, and YouTube took care of the rest. Guess what I found out? YouTube is better at finding clients for Myron than Myron is at finding clients for Myron. Wow, guess what? So is Instagram, so is Facebook, so is LinkedIn, so is TikTok. They're all better at finding clients for me than I am. So all I have to do is give them what they want, and they will give me what I want. You say, well, Myron, what do they want? They want people to stay on their platform longer. So all I have to do is create content that helps people and upload it to their platform, and the people keep watching that, which apparently they were watching me a little last month, right? 35 years worth in the last 28 days. You say, what are you saying? I'm leveraging the medium. Do you understand? We live in the most exciting, I got chills thinking about it. We live in the most exciting times that have ever existed on planet Earth. Everything is available to everybody, and everybody can reach anybody, and anybody can reach everybody. It's never existed before. You don't have to be some big multi-billion-dollar brand to reach billions or millions or hundreds of millions or hundreds of billions. Of reach. You don't need that. All you need to do is have a message that people care about. Would y'all like me to tell you what causes people to care about your message? Yes? They can tell that you care about them. When you give your message, they can tell you care about them. It's so simple. It seems like an oversimplification, but it's not. And so you decide, you discover how to leverage the method of leverage, the medium of leverage, and then this is the hard one for people because we don't practice the messaging. You have to develop the right leverage of messaging. I don't know if I'm going to be able to convey this. I'm going to do my best. This is where people struggle the most. This is where most people struggle the most. Maybe it's because when we were children, we were told to sit still and be quiet. Maybe that's why. Maybe because, like, if we wanted to say something, we had to raise our hand and ask for permission. Like, you spend the first part of your life asking for permission to do everything. Now you know something, you want to share it, you feel like you got to go get permission from somebody. Well, I'm 63, I'll be 64 in 2 days. Here's what's fascinating to me. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 25. So that's almost 40 years. What is that? 38 years, 39 years I've been an entrepreneur. That's a long time. And I just now discovered one of the most mind-blowing things, when I say just now, last year, one of the most mind-blowing principles I've ever learned in my life, and that is that just because you're a high income earner doesn't mean you have to pay high taxes. In fact, you don't have to pay federal income tax at all if you'll do the things that the government says, do these things, and you don't have to pay taxes. Now, the primary thing is investing in real estate. But you know, I'm like, why did it take me so long to figure this out? Why did it take me so long to figure this out? I'm pretty smart. Relatively smart? Kind of smart? Smart every now and then? Okay, anyway. y'all are looking a little confused, like, who are you talking about? Okay, I'm a relatively intelligent individual. How did it take me 63 years to figure this out? You know why? Because the people who understand it are good at understanding it and terrible at talking about it. But that's not just true about investing in real estate. It's true about almost everything. There are people who have great solutions and terrible messaging, and because their messaging is so terrible, nobody ever wants to take advantage of their solution. You have to get good at saying it. Some of you have something good to say, you just don't say it well. And I thought to myself, why are people who are good at a thing so bad at talking about the thing they're good at? I mean, maybe you don't, like, that's what I was plagued with that thought after I discovered this thing and got back a tax refund for the first time since 1995. Last year in 2024, I got back, like, that's 29 years. I get back a tax refund. I'm like, a refund? What? I'm confused. But I'm confused because the people who aren't confused are confusing. And so when they talk about the benefits of investing in real estate, they either do it in a way that makes real estate seem like some faraway dream or something I got to go back and get a master's degree in, or they use insider lingo in the outside world, or they're so focused on what they're going. I think this is one of the biggest problems people have. As soon as you realize that you've created a solution for people that you know is going to be good for other people and they're going to pay you for it, you start thinking about what you get out of it and stop thinking about what they get out of it. And so when you're talking to them about it, you're so in tune with yourself and so tuned out from them that you mess up the messaging. Like you have to become so others focused and so consumed with solving the problem of the people you serve that when you're talking, they can feel that the thing you care about the most is them. That's not easy to do when you know you're going to get some of that. People say, well, Myron, how do you keep from, like, I talk about this thing called commission breath, right? It's like, it's when you're talking to people. It's what you're I was like, you're talking to people and you're thinking about how much you're going to get paid. Oh, my musician fans out there. All the singers, all the artists, love y'all. Yeah, my people. Okay. All right, I'm done. So it has to be an area of competence. You have to be competent. Like you have to know something. 2, or B, it needs to be an area where you are confident. By the way, confidence is not the same as competence, but confidence does come from competence. Confidence does come from competence. If my marker wasn't being so weird, I wouldn't. Confidence, right? It has to be an area where you have confidence. Why? Because here's what people are looking for when they buy a solution from you, me, or anybody else. They're looking for a sense of certainty. They are uncertain about the transformation they desire. If you can let them borrow your certainty in your solution to build their certainty in your solution, then they may buy. But if you don't, it's not happening. And see, whether you know it or not, if you're somebody who watches my videos often, or if you're somebody who comes here in studio often, one of the reasons you do that is because even if you're not certain, you're certain that I'm certain. That's right. Correct. And so the people that you're going to serve, those people are going to follow you and they're going to listen to you and they're going to buy into your solution because they're certain you're certain. But if you don't have confidence, confidence is the root word of confidence is confide. They don't have confidence if they don't trust you, and they don't trust you if they can see that you don't trust yourself. at least with this solution. Like when it comes to making money, like I'm not confused about that at all. Now, if I'm going to teach you how to be like the best basketball player in the world, I'm going to have a lack of competence and a lack of confidence in that area. Why? It's just not my jam. It's not the thing I know the most about. Now, I can cook really, really good, and I could probably teach you how to cook, but I don't measure. I just like, I can feel it. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but I can just feel what this is going to taste like when I'm done, and it's going to be good. I don't know if any of y'all understand what I'm talking about. Like, so I could probably maybe teach you how to cook if I could just get you to feel it, right? But when it comes to making money, oh, there's no doubt in my mind about that. I already know how to do that. Like making money is not hard. Becoming the person who's able to make money is the hard part. Okay. And then lastly, the last one takes time. It needs to be an area in which you've been consistent. Why is consistent so important? I was thinking about it today. Why is it? I'm going to go back to my chair. Why is it that some people, right? So how do you have conversations without having commission breath? Easy. Create a solution that's so much better for them than it is for you. Like even my clients that pay me $375,000 for an 8-hour coaching day, I created a solution that's so much better for them than it is for me that when I'm talking to them, I can be excited for them, not excited about the fact they're going to pay me. Right. That's how it works. Okay. So once you discover the level of discern the level of value you have to work on, and then you discover the leverage, then you have to do number 3, which is you have to decide. This marker is giving me the blues. Ariel, remind me to order some tips for my markers. Decide what lane. Decide what lane am I going to work in. What lane am I going to work in that's going to help me, like, really help people the most? Now, here's the thing. Here's where I think a lot of people mess up. It has to be a lane where you are competent. There are too many people out there who don't have competence in an arena, but they read a book on it, or they heard somebody else talk about it, and they think, well, that person's doing this to make money, so I'm just going to do what they did and say what they said, and maybe I'll make money. It doesn't work like that. You might be able to copy their verbiage, but you cannot copy their vibe. And there is a vibe that competence carries with it. And like, in fact, recently I was at an event, and there was a speaker there, and she was speaking, and in full transparency, I had bought a course from her before, and I wasn't impressed. And maybe I just didn't give it enough time, right? Maybe I didn't go through enough of the modules to be, I was like, it's all right. So then I heard her talk, and I'm thinking, okay, what's she going to talk about, right? I'm thinking this to myself. And then she talks, and I'm like, oh, snap. This woman knows what she's talking about. And I could tell that she wasn't trying to make us believe something about her. She wasn't pretending to know something about this thing. This woman was teaching from her essence. She was teaching from her knowingness. I could tell, I could tell this is all she does. This is her jam. This is her lane. And guess what? I went and asked her, do you have a coaching program? She said, I do. I said, I would like to buy it from you. She said, it's $20,000. I said, here's my American Express. Why? Not because of what she said, but because of who she was when she said it. And see, what you don't realize is people are picking up on who you are when you're saying what you say. And who you're being is the music. And the words you're saying are just the lyrics. But if the words don't match the music, they're not buying. How many of y'all tracking?